It's good to see you. We're so excited that you are here. If you are a guest today at Kingsway, if it's your first time, I just want to mention these cards to you before we get started. As we get started, these are ways for us to get connected with you and for you to feel connected with us. So if it's your first time, just take this out at some point during the service, fill it out, take it to our connections booth, or just drop it in the offering plate if you don't have time to do that today. Just do that. As we get started this morning, we're going to celebrate in only one of the best ways how. So if you would just turn your attention to the screen and check out this video. That is awesome, and we do have some incredible, or at least some beautiful flowers for our mothers in here. So I have a couple guys that are going to come up here and help me hand those out. So if you're a mom in here, we want to make sure that you get one of these flowers before you leave. So they're going to be coming down the aisles to give those out. But also we want to especially recognize one group of moms, and that is the single moms in here. So if you are a single mom, if you are battling and you are in the trenches right now and you have a kiddo or a couple kids in your home, we want to give you a special gift right now. So if you're a single mom, raise your hand and we want to offer you either a bouquet or we want to offer you an Andy's gift card. So you get to choose. So do we have any single moms in here? Single moms? No? No? Single parent there? No? Done? Not a single one. Oh, that stinks. We want to make sure we recognize it. I will tell you this right now, just as from a pastor's side point. If you know someone that is a single mom, this is a great day to give them honor and make sure that they're recognized and make them feel like they're special, because that is an incredibly difficult thing. I do want to say this. We have a couple other things that we want to make sure to recognize. The first is this. Do we have who is the newest mom in here? The newest mom. The newest mom. I have a feeling. Oh, mom's not here. That's really funny. How about 3 months ago? Do you have any three months or younger? I know we have one really recent. All right. She right up there. That is awesome. Allie, how old is your daughter? How old? 3.5 weeks. There's our Victor. Taking him now. You have to, you can do whatever you need to do with this, Dalton. So if you want to say it's from us, do you want to say? If you want to say it. And I want to recognize one more mom. And before we move on, I want to recognize the mom that has the most kids in the house still. The most kids in the house. The one that is in the trenches with the most heathens. So do we have 3 still in the house? Raise your hand. You have 3 still in the house. There's a higher. Don't gator arm it. 3, 4 still in the house. Oh my gosh, we have a tie. 3 still in the house. Gina Langston is 5. Where's Gina? Is she here? Oh, she's in class. We will get that to her. She has 5. Gina Langston has 5. Can we say she is the winner? She is the winner. We'll make sure we pass that on. Well, awesome. Well, as we continue to move on and continue to talk about moms a little bit, but also just recognize the God that made beautiful mothers that are incredible leaders of the heart of the household, would you stand and greet those around you and say, "Good morning, it's good to see you," and say hello.
All right, well, as we continue to get started this morning, I'm going to have you sit, actually, just having you stand and sit, but it's for a really good reason, I promise, because as we celebrate mothers this morning, we also get to celebrate a new life this morning with a baptism. So if you would go ahead and take a seat and turn your attention towards the baptistry.
My name is Jody Jones. This is my son Tristan. He is the youngest of 8. And when he was 3, he used to ride back and forth to Fort Smith with me. Well, there's a big cross on I-40. He asked me one day, he said, "Dad," he said, "what is that?" So I explained to him what it was and what it meant. And he never forgot it. In the past couple months, he's been asking questions and kind of thinking it's time. Well, a couple weeks ago, he finally came up and said, "I want to be baptized. I'm ready to give my life to God." So in that case, Tristan, do you believe you're a sinner? Tristan, do you believe that Jesus gave his life and died on the cross for you for your sins? Are you ready to give your life to God and walk in the path that he's got for you? In that case, Tristan, I baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Okay, let's stand up and continue our worship. This morning as we get to celebrate that we are alive because of Christ. He gives us life, he gives us hope, he gives us freedom. Sing this, I was lost with a broken heart. Yeah, I was lost with a broken heart. You picked me up, now I'm set apart. From the outside, I was born turn into wine. Open the eyes of the blind. There's no one like you. There's none like you. Into the darkness you shine. And out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. There's none like you. 'Cause our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God is our God. Into the darkness you shine. Out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. There's none like you. 'Cause our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God. You are greater, God. You are a healer. You are present in our times of trouble, our times of success and worship. So listen, and if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what can stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what can stand against? Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. It's our God. Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. It's our God. If our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what can stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what can stand Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, and our God. Sing that one more time. 'Cause our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, and our God. Our God.
face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace. Sing one more time. Turn your eyes. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in His wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace. No place I would rather be, no place I would rather be, no place I would rather be. Here in your love, here in your love. No place I would rather be, no place I would rather be, no place I would rather be. Here in your love, here in your love. No place I would rather be, no place I would rather be, no place I would rather be. Here in your love, here in your love. No place I would rather be, no place I would rather be, no place I would rather be. Here in your love, here in your love. No place I would rather be, no place I would rather be, no place I would rather be. Here in your love, here in your love. To set a fire down in my soul that I can't contain and I can't control. I want more of you, God. I want more of you, God. Set a fire down in my soul that I can't contain and I can't control. I want more of you, God. I want more of you, God.
Just lift up your own prayer. Prayer of thanksgiving for His pursuit of love for us. Prayer of question and prayer of praise. Whatever's on your heart, choose your own words and just talk to God.
No place I would rather be, no place I would rather be, no place I would rather be. Here in your love, here in your love. No place I would rather be, no place I would rather be, no place I would rather be. Here in your love, here in your love. Set a fire down in my soul that I can't contain and I can't control. I want more of you, God. I want more be. No place I would rather be. Here in your love, here in your love. Lord, may we turn our eyes upon you and let the perspective that worship and that prayer brings come upon us to remind us that the here and now and the things that are so frustrating to me that have happened this last week, whether it's been my own fault or maybe I feel like a victim, God, there's clarity in worship of you. There's perspective, there's a reminder that you are God and we're not. There's a reminder that you were doing things so much bigger than what I can see. Lord, and even though we sing that line over and over, there's no place I'd rather be but here in your love. Lord, it's the same, what we might even say, boring message you say to us day after day. Simply, I love you. I love you. Why are you doing all this in your work and in your family, or you're working to be loved when I'm already telling you that I love you? Lord, thank you that we can rest and we can live in your love. And it's from that place that we ask that you would continue to meet us. Meet our feeble attempts to pursue you. Lord, meet our feeble attempts to grow into you and to do and to go where you're calling us to. As you continue to say, I love you. Follow me. Lord, we thank you. So we turn our eyes upon you. And Lord, ask, as we continue just to worship you, you would speak and allow us to hear. Open up our hearts, our minds, our ears. We love you, God. You're in we pray. Amen. You guys can take a seat.
Good morning. It's good to see you. Happy Mother's Day. I'm excited to continue our series this morning, Elephant in the Room. We've been having these talks, these discussions together now. This will be the 5th week, and we are going to have one more the next week. And these are our attempts. These are our attempts to not ignore the things that are talked outside these walls, the things that sometimes are discussed, but actually to try to pull them in to a conversation that starts here, that can lead to discussions that leave this place, that can happen in your families or your coworkers on the street, whether it be in life groups, whether it be just near conversation to the building, maybe at a school or something in town. We're just hoping that this is something that leads to discussions that don't just make a point but make a difference. And so this last few weeks, I just highly encourage you, if you have not gone back and looked at some of the messages that maybe you've missed, I highly encourage you to go back and check those out. Through our website, you go to kingswaychristianchurch.org, and you can find the little YouTube app or a little YouTube link down there at the bottom that goes and sends you to YouTube, and all the videos from this series and past series are on there, so you can check those out. I specifically want to mention that we talked about the homosexual movement, the gay rights movement just a few weeks ago, and if you have not had a chance to go and check that out, I would highly encourage you to go and do that. We brought a professor from Ozark, and he did an amazing job and really did a delicate job of talking about that. So I encourage you, if you haven't heard that, go back and check it out. But today we're going to continue our discussions, and we're going to talk about kids these days. Kids these days. We're going to talk about some generational tensions. Some generational tensions. So, of course, for myself, many of you are thinking, so how do you get to talk to people that are slightly more wise than you? Or slightly more seasoned? Or veteran? Or older? That's a frowned upon word. And so my attempt this week was to try to learn as much as I could about some generations that were before me. So I did all kinds of research, and I looked up a bunch of stuff like music. And then I looked up a bunch of stuff like key things that were cool. Let me just throw a couple of these out. I learned about the 60s, that the Rolling Stones, Cream, the Beatles, and Elvis were huge. Maybe agree with that? 60s, that's pretty accurate. If I miss anybody, don't, just show on. The 70s, it was Kiss, Aerosmith, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin. Did I miss? Hey, you guys are not, you just don't scream it out, maybe I missed somebody. The 80s, there was like a list like this long. I'm not even kidding you. Like everything else is like maybe like 3 people, and then like there's like 80s is like, boom, like holy cow. Poison, Motley Crue, Iron Maiden, Michael Jackson, Judas Priest, Metallica. Those are like the rock bands, and it was like thousands of them. What was the doo-wop group? Anyway, there's like 50 of them. I can't read them all. 90s, Foo Fighters, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Nirvana, Spice Girls, just to name a few. Hanson, See, I'm dating myself right there, already bringing it back. I'm a child of the 90s. I can't stop myself. So then I started to go to toys. Toys in the 60s were Barbie, G.I. Joe, and Action Man. Action Man. I didn't even know about Action Man. And then they had the Rock'em Sock'em Robots. All right? And the Rock'em Sock'em Robots. How about this? In the 70s, it was skateboards. Skateboards sold 7 million skateboards in the 70s. What? I did not. Wow. There was a thing called the chopper. I don't know if anybody knew it. It was a type of bike. Evidently, it had like a larger seat to it. Something called like a banana seat. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Because I looked this stuff up. All right, good. I don't know. I wasn't even alive in the 70s. All right, you can't talk. Rubik's Cube is in the 70s. Some of y'all brainiacs in here, you knew that. All right, 80s, Transformers, Monopoly, Scramble. Trivial Pursuit. Trivial Pursuit. How about this one? Atari. I'm talking about. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Star Wars. Woo! New one coming out. Nerd. 90s. Rollerblades. Game Boy. Tickle Me Elmo. Razor scooters. You remember that? It was cool for like a year, and then like everybody was like, these are stupid. Moon boots. Do you guys remember moon boots? It was like rubber bands you put your feet in. Oh my gosh, dumb. And then skip it. You put this thing around your ankle, and then you like try to whirl it and jump it at the same time. You remember that thing? Oh my gosh. It blew my mind when I was like, oh yeah! And it like had a counter on it. It counted for you. It's crazy. The 60s, the major events, Woodstock, President Kennedy was assassinated, the Cuban Missile Crisis, in the 70s was Watergate, and now we have Deflategate, and then Vietnam, and I can't hit all these. The 80s there was the Challenger, Chernobyl, the 90s we had O.J. Simpson. And the Oklahoma City bombing, some major, tons of things in there. I mean, it's just crazy how quickly, like you can take 40 years, 50 years, and break it down into small chunks, and you start to see a difference. But what's crazy is as I was doing this research, I had a toy in my house that did the job. That I didn't even have to go any further, and I didn't even realize it until just a few days ago. I'm doing all this research, I'm looking this stuff up, I'm trying to boil it down and remind us of like how different we are, how like crazy different we are, and how we are raised. And I'm talking to someone on the phone, this phone, like this, and my son picks up this. Now it's a little worn and torn, all right? It's been through a few things. But if you can't see it, but it has one of the old... So I start doing our number. All right, 4... What? And like 10 years later, he's like across the room bored, like, hey, pick up the phone. Like, uh-oh. Drop the alarm clock. But what's funny is like this has a cord. I couldn't have
drawn it up any closer, I don't think, to how different today is. I mean, this doesn't work, but it was an accurate model at one point, right? I mean, kids would use this because it looked similar to what was really there. And the parents would be able to go, hey, why don't you call grandma, and they'd hand them this. Nowadays, they're like, what the heck is that? Like, you know, they want the real deal. They know the real deal. You know, my 18-month-old the other day, he picked this up and put it like this. And I was like, what the heck are you doing? He's like, oh yeah, I'm using it wrong. You know, it's like, you know, he starts staring at the black screen. You know, I'm like, great, I'm an awesome example of how to use a phone. That's all he sees, right? Just this black face. But I think what jumps out at me so quickly is if the two worlds tried to communicate. I mean, just think about it. This is a line of communication here. I mean, just think about it. This was a time that the pace of life was so different than just a couple buttons. And I was talking to John in the office, and he's like, yeah, I remember when you couldn't Google things. You had to call the operator named Carol. You know, on D0, hey, Carol, I want to call so-and-so. You know, he's like, oh, we had party lines. You know, you didn't have your own phone line. It's like your TMZ was not getting on the computer. It was, oh, Deborah's, oh, they're fighting again. They're fighting again. Oh, it's getting angry. With the party, anybody have a party line? Have a party line? Did any of you, be honest, you're church, any of you listen in? If you listen in? Yeah, somebody like, no, maybe. But, I mean, just think about, all of a sudden, this is obsolete. Right? Like, we got watches that call people now. We don't even need to talk to it. I mean, we don't even need to type things, you just talk to it. I mean, it's Bluetooth. You can have a little piece in your ear and like a CSI agent, right? You know, you're not even, your phone's not even around. You're just like, hey, Jim, yeah, it's good to see you. And you're like, are you talking to me right now? What's so good to realize about this is that it's still alive today. The tension is still alive today. It's so very real between us. The age gap and the differences between the ways we were raised and the years that have gone by, the wisdom that we have learned, the experiences that we have had shaped us. And the things that we have not done, and the things that we have not experienced, and the different things that we have experienced growing up have shaped us differently. And for some of us kids these days, it seems to be a really weird shape. And folks that are old that were looking back and seeing the wisdom and the difference were like, why in the heck would you do it like that? What in the world? Why? No, that seems stupid. And it's crazy how quickly you're like, man, I just struggle to communicate with anybody under the age of 30. Can't even talk to each other. So today I want to just try to talk about that tension a little bit. And I'm going to pick on both sides, because that's only fair. But I'm just going to ask for extra grace with what I do not know completely, and that is the older side. All right? I'm just going to still claim that I'm younger. Can I do that? I know last week I told you I had bald spots on the sides of my head. You all laughed really loud. Hurt my feelings a little bit, but I'm going to let it go. All right? You're supposed to say, what bald spots? What bald spots? These little circles right here, they're growing every day because I have toddlers. But I'm going to try to speak to you gently, but at the same time with conviction. Because I think there is a beauty in the differences. I think there is an absolute beauty in the makeup of the church. And it's intentional. It's strategic. It's amazing. But it can be difficult. I had a conversation with my grandma 2 days ago that really just set the tone for this whole thing. Let me read this psalm, and then I'll tell you what she and I talked about. This is what Psalm 71:18 talks about, and this is particularly to a generation of older. Now, I'm not going to define older and younger, so in here, if you think you're on the line, just listen to both. Hey, and if you're older and you think you understand the younger, just check it out. See, maybe you've missed it. And if you don't, that's a great time to listen. And younger in here, if you think you have your parents figured out, you're lying to yourself. All right? If you're younger in here and you think you have the older generation, you're lying. Listen in. All right? Let's reread this psalm and we'll start this discussion together. Psalm 71:18 says this, "Now that I am old and gray, do not abandon me, O God. Let me proclaim your power to this new generation, your mighty miracles to all who come after me." A pretty neat passage to the generation that is leaving its legacy and hoping that it continues. So I had this conversation with my grandma, and it was her birthday, and I missed it, which was terrible. That's terrible. I don't know if you've ever had like one of those conversations with someone the day after their birthday, and they're completely aware that you blew it. All right? And with this time and age, Facebook is the way that you keep up to date. Let's be honest. If they don't have it on Facebook, it's really hard because calendars and things that exist outside of Facebook, as for me, do not exist. And so she's not on Facebook. And so of course I miss it. So I'm calling her the day after, and it's got one of those like, you know, it just admit it type starts, you know, like, "Oh, hi. How are you?" "Good. It's good to talk with you, Grandma." "What are you doing?" "Oh gosh. I'm sorry I missed your birthday. It was yesterday. I know. I missed it, and I love you. It's good to hear from you." And then there was a few names that came after that did call the day before. I won't bring them up because then I'll just be bitter. All right? But then the conversation turned, and she started talking about my kids. And she started talking about this device that had pictures of my kids all over it. And it was my cousin who had come over and showed her the Facebook and had showed her all these pictures of the kids, and she was super, ooper duper excited. And it was just this moment where I thought, man, that has got to be weird. Holy cow, that has got to be weird. I mean, she is 87, and the difference between when she was getting pictures taken of her kids to the things now where like I snap 25 a day and post 12. You know, she has 1 or 2 from a stage a year. Just blew my mind. I couldn't even imagine it. I'm going, I got like what cereal they had for the morning. Like I could go back by date and be like, yeah, he was 2 pounds heavier here. You know, like he had 3 teeth. And it just blew my mind how quickly that has changed just in one lifetime. So it really got me thinking about, okay, how do we talk to? How do we really melt into? How do we really begin to be one body? How do we really begin to work together in this tension? So here's what we're going to dive into. I listened to an incredible teacher named Craig Rochelle, and he had an amazing ability to speak from and to the older generation, and I just could not believe how good it was. And so I took it. And here's what he said. The first one is this: insecurity. You know what keeps the older generation sometimes from blending with the youngers? It's insecurity. It is an insecurity that is bred out of a couple things. You're different from what you were before. There is fear and resentment and judgment that emerges sometimes for the younger generation. Perfect example. Perfect example. Nowadays, if I don't do this one thing, my mother will jump off all over me. But I can see how it has shifted. How many of you guys were told to say please and thank you? How many of you guys were told to say please and thank you? Okay. Please and thank you. Okay. It wasn't an option in my house. It wasn't an option. How many of you guys, you had a mom or dad like that? Raise your hand if you were like, that is not an option for you to say please and thank you. Okay. I was that way. So if I came into the house and I said, give me juice. I would not get juice for a week. You know, like, I would have kind of got paddled. I probably would have gotten, I don't know how old I was, but I just remember it multiple times. So to this day, I could be like at the park, in a cafeteria somewhere. I could be at a ball game and listen to a kid. But when they say something like, give me that juice, to an adult, I'm like, oh snap. Here it comes. All right? And then sometimes nothing happens. Right? Let's just be honest. Now, pause with me right there. There is a thought in my head that goes like this: oh, we're all going to hell in a handbasket. Have you ever had that thought? Oh, if we don't start drawing lines there, where are we going to start drawing? Right? If this isn't the line that we start drawing, where are we going to draw the line? If we're not saying please and thank you. Like, I want to step in and I just want to be like, what was that? You don't talk to your mom like that. You know why? Because you're going to talk to someone else's mom like that, and you're going to teach somebody else to talk to like that to their mama, and then it's going to spread. This whole country's going to burn! Right? Now that's a small, itty-bitty example, and it is imprinted on me, I can tell. But it's crazy how quickly we see things like that in our world. From a perspective that I only have 30 years. Think of your perspective. The things that you have experienced, the things that you have seen that have been a benefit to you, to treat people with honor. Like God. Right? Thank you. I'm reminded right now. To be respectful. To not demand it, but to give it. I mean, it is, and there's such a temptation, I think, to have this insecurity of going, I can't count on you for anything. There is nothing I could give to you, younger people, and you'll do it. I can't trust you to say please and thank you. Why would I trust you with anything important? Why would I trust you to do anything? And it creeps in, and it's maybe not even something we see on the surface, but it's something that hides in there. It's something that is alive and well, and we have to be careful that insecurity isn't something that keeps us thinking that, I don't know if you can handle this. I'm not sure if I can handle this. I think I'm not ready to handle this. I don't know what's going on. I think everything's going to fall apart and burn. The second one is this: poor delegation. All right? And this is one of the big ones. Out of that insecurity flows the inability to give responsibility. See, there's a difference between giving someone a task and giving them responsibility. Telling them they can feed the dog, or telling them it's their job to feed the dog, right? Telling them you can give the dog some food, or the dog dies if you don't feed it, right? It is your job to feed it. And see, out of that insecurity and seeing that the world is different, seeing that we don't even, like, if I handed this to junior hires, I really doubt that they would think this is real. I really think they'd be like, phones are never really like this. Yes, they were. They really did work like this. They really did function like this. And because they don't know something that was so crucial at some point in your life, because they didn't realize something, that this was the only way to call at one point. It wasn't this. It was this. And because they didn't realize that important thing, and you saw that in them, you went, ugh, let me dial that for you. You can hold the phone, but you're not in charge of making the call. You can be a part of this, but you're not going to have responsibility in it. What's dangerous about this, what finds its way into being really tough about this, is at some point you have to hand it off. Right? At some point, there is a handing off point. I love this term that's going around right now. It's called delayed adolescence. I experienced it. It's where the child between 19 and 26 still has tendencies of a teenager. And the adolescent stage, this wondering stage, still becomes a part of their life. And they're not really sure why it happens. They keep having these major thoughts of what's going to really be the cause of delayed adolescence. But I heard this week this amazing definition of what delayed adolescence is. Delayed adolescence is a parent preparing a student to prepare to be an adult. Say it again. A parent preparing their son or their daughter to be an adult rather than preparing them to be an adult. It's the whole idea of like this. When a child reaches 18, do they start preparing to be an adult at that point? Or are they prepared to be an adult at 18? The research is coming back to say that parents are not seeing their kids as adults until they have the responsibilities of an adult. And so what happens is at 18, when they go off to college or something, they leave the home, they haven't had any adult responsibilities yet. So the parent can't see them as being an adult, and the child doesn't know if they are an adult because they haven't ever had the responsibilities of being an adult. And so there's this wonderful mystical land called delayed adolescence. All right? And there's this thing where they're trying to hold the responsibilities, the parents are trying to support them, and it's this difficult time in their life. I went through it. It's hard. And the thing that they keep coming back to, and the research keeps showing, is there has to be a point earlier where the parents have to start to let the kids be adults. They have to not just give them tasks, but give them responsibilities. And that's tough. It's tough. I'm going to keep moving on because I'm picking on you guys. I can see it. You're like, gosh, go picking on me. Hold on. Believe me when I tell you this, we're getting to the younger people. All right? I'm not leaving them out. All right? So don't feel picked on too much because some of y'all are turning on me. Don't run. Don't light the pitchforks and the torches yet. All right? Here's the last one, and this is my favorite one. Authenticity. Authenticity. Listen, authenticity trumps cool every single time. Being authentic trumps being cool every single time. And it is a struggle right now to want to fit in and be cool and be seen as hip. And every time I can feel it in my bones right now, you guys, because I am leaving the cool stage in the youth group. It's a really sad time. They're laughing. They laughed harder than you did. You just tried to hold it in so that they're turning red. And it is so true. Like, I get out on the basketball court and I used to do all the cool things and like dunk it and stuff. All right, not really, but when it was shorter, I would do the cool things, and now I get out there and rip my pants. Or drag my belly on the ground. Or fall. Or claim injury because I can't do it anymore. And I feel the tension inside of me already. I'm coaching a high school baseball team. And I'm helping coach. I shouldn't say I'm coaching. I'm the sole coach. No, I'm helping coach this team. And it's crazy because these players make mistakes or they do things on the field. And I feel the tension inside of me to go, just let me do it. I'll show you the cool way to do it. I can be cool. I'll hit this home run. I'll do all the things that you can't do to be cool. And I'll fit in and you'll like me. And there's just this temptation to doubt yourself. To doubt who you are through your experiences and the wisdom that you gained. The things that you are good at. The ways that your life has changed. You don't have to meet some standard that they're attempting you to fit into, but they need authentic, real relationships. It's something that's very needed. And it's attractive. It's an incredibly attractive thing for the younger generation to see people that are authentic. They're real. I have a friend of mine that passed away a few years ago that I hung out with in Arizona. He was in his late 70s. His name was Nigel. And he and I were kind of like buddy friends. And I'll just tell you this. It was one of those relationships that were born out of like my desperation and his desire to try to help me. I was lost in my life, just a very difficult section of my life. I had been in youth group. I was a PK, which means I'm a pastor's kid, which means I'm supposed to fail. And if I succeed, that's what I was supposed to do anyways, right? You know, like there's like this double entendre of things. And I was just stuck at 19, and I met with this guy to do a Bible study every so often, probably about twice a month. And the thing that was so crazy to me, I went into his house, and he had one of those like this is gonna sound crazy, but he had one of those giant globes that glow. They're like really reflective in his front lawn. You know what I'm talking about? In the front lawn, it's like a lawn ornament. It's like really big. I thought that was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. At 19, I was like, what is that? He's like, oh, it's just like a little fountain decoration thing. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I went inside, and it was like Hobby Lobby. They had bought the store, and they laid it in there. I mean, it was like, his wife was 20 years younger than he was, because he had lost his wife twice, and he had remarried 2 separate times, and he married younger every time. And he was just this incredibly authentic man. He opened up his Bible that he had since stone tablets come down from the mountains with Moses. And he would read from sections that he had underlined. But then there was also times that he would close his Bible and he would look me in the eyes and he would say things like, I don't know. That's a tough one. Never dealt with that before. That sounds really difficult. Man, explain that to me again. What I loved about him is he didn't try to be the guy that had all the answers. He didn't try to be the guy that had the cool, smooth lines for everything. He didn't try to be the guy that had it all together. He just was himself. And yes, there were times when the Bible came into play. There was times that his wisdom came in, and then there was other times where he would look at me and go, man, that sounds just really difficult. Really sorry. And it wasn't a like, good luck, get out there and go for it. It was a genuine, authentic care in a person. And I remember it just changed my whole mindset at 19 that someone could be that authentic and I could actually relate. And it really was something that I thought, man, when I get to that age, I just want to be who I am. I don't want to pretend. And at 19, of course, that's all you're doing, right? You don't know who you are yet. You don't know what you're going to be or the decisions you're going to make. You're still figuring that out. And it was so good for me to have somebody that was authentic in my life. So let's pick on the younger kids. We'll do that together. I'm not going to put myself in this category because that sounds like I'm going to pick on myself, which is true. Let me read this verse for you. Jesus talking about a prophet, and I think the biggest thing that our generation, my generation, the younger generation struggle with, this tension. It's a lack of honor. Jesus says this in Mark 6, verse 4. So Jesus told them, a prophet is honored everywhere except his hometown and his relatives and his family. A prophet is honored everywhere except in his hometown, among his relatives, and his own family. See, honor is something that is given. Respect is something that is earned. Honor is something that is given, and respect is something that is earned. I'll just say this to the younger generation in here, and I won't define lines because I really think it is something that you know who you are. You know who you are. And I'm not just talking about the generation of teenagers in here. Generation IY is defined by 28 to the present, 28 years ago. So it's 86 and older. But they say there's a flexibility in there because that generation has changed so much. That's why I can't even define it for you. It's because the internet, cell phones, iPods, game systems, all this crap happened and we don't even know. We're like, there's like 7 different generations in here. To the younger generation, though, I can tell you this is our biggest struggle. It's a lack of honor. It's a lack of honor. Honor is not earned, it's given. attend on a regular basis, I would say, multiple sporting events a year. And I love the part at the beginning where we sing the national anthem. And there's just this point in me where it's just very, what some would say, old-fashioned. You know, it's a different kind of stand together where we don't have places like Facebook or social media or the internet or any other way that we group each other together. You know, this is before that. This is where we're all together in one place and we're as unified singing something, stating something together with one voice. It's a powerful moment. It's much like a Sunday morning can be in worship to a grander scale. But in these moments, there's this tension that happens, and you've seen it, right? You've watched this happen, and I'm going to be hard on us as the younger generation. The older generation that has seen how incredibly hard our country has strived for freedom, has paid a dearing price, has counted the sacrifice, has watched the things that have transpired through the years, as grandparents or maybe themselves have served, and know what it takes on wives and kids. They will stand up, remove their hats, place their hands over their chest. They will stand still. Some may even sing out loud. Some will cry. And they will give honor. But if you watch our generation, we struggle. We do not count the cost. We do not see the sacrifice. We are ignorant in the way that we appear to know what it has cost. And we think, what has our country done for me? Why would I give it honor? I feel that, even in myself. And it's something that happens not only in stadiums or on basketball courts or on baseball fields. It's something that can happen in the home as well. A parent is not honored. Parents are not honored. They're respected if they deserve it, but they're not given honor. They're not seen as having a position to be worthy to be honored. And we struggle with that. And the struggle with that is, we do that with God then. What has God done for me lately? And if I haven't seen it, then I struggle to make him God. Because how can I honor someone that's not showing up? Rather than seeing him as the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the one that rules and deserves the honor, without doing a thing for me. It's powerful stuff, and it starts to sink in, and you start to see that pretty quickly in that younger generation. The next one, and I think it's equally as important, but maybe just under it, we're not teachable. We're not teachable. You know what the number one word that the older generation will use to describe or business owners or someone that's invested in the lives of this younger generation? You know what they'll say? You're entitled. You're entitled. It's like once you reach the age of 25, you're supposed to have everything your parents have. Right? House, kids, cars, money, everything. You're supposed to have it already. And if you don't have what the person next to you has, or you have less than the person next to you has, or if you don't quite feel like you're measuring up in possessions, fame, talent, whatever, there's a feeling like you deserve it. And what that seeps into is your inability to be taught, to be coached. It seeps into your inability to listen to the people around you that are trying to help you grow and learn. And you think you've arrived. You are God's gift to the planet. Everyone else just hasn't recognized it yet. And someday they will take their sunglasses off and they will be blinded by your glory. But it's just not true. We are being worked by this craftsman, this potter. He is doing an incredible work in all of us. The older generation knows that Rome wasn't built in a day, we say. Life is not about a sprint. It's a marathon. And God continues to work. We say it around here all the time. It's not about, all right, perfection. It's about pursuit of perfection. It's about pursuing and journeying to perfection. And the last one, and it goes along with teachable, is patience. It's patience. Man, we have no patience, and I'll tell you why. Can you imagine the difference? I mean, I just told you how frustrated I was with this, right? 4, 1. Feel the tension here already? I gotta go a long ways. 7, 4, 6. It's taking a long time. 6. I mean, you feel that? My generation's like, dude, what the flip? Let me just Google it. There. You know, you ever been in a crowd with younger kids? Like the older generation, they'll like have a question. They'll be like, oh, I wonder who started Game 7 of the 1947, World Series. And they'll be like, oh yeah, and then they'll try to think about it. And then the younger guys in there's like, it was so-and-so, and they threw out this many pitches and this many strikes and that. They actually also won Game 45. You know what I mean? Instant answers. Here's the problem with that. Life doesn't work like that. So here's probably one of the best statements you could ever hear about the younger generation. Here it is, you ready? The younger generation often overestimates what God wants to do through them in the short term. And they often grossly underestimate what God wants to do through them in the long term. They underestimate what God wants to do with them in the long term because they've grossly overestimated what God's going to do with them in the short term. And it's crazy how quickly those types of things start to blend, isn't it? What does the older generation have but patience? What does the older generation have but a humility to know that there is a lot out there they don't know? What does the older generation have but an identity that is built and founded on a lifetime, not over 5 minutes, not over being babied, taken care of, put in car seats that they can send to the moon, not being fed all the organic food, but being fed rocks and dirt, whatever was out there 30 years ago that they were like, good luck. The generation before has this incredible ability to speak to this in powerful ways if we'll just learn. So here's a cool thing for you that are in here that are older that you can walk away with. And I think this will help you realize your role to play. If you're not dead, or if you aren't dead, you're not done. You aren't done. You are not obsolete. You are not needed. You are not forgotten. You are not thrown away. You are not put aside. You are positioned with incredible ability and wisdom and experience right where you're at to do great things. Incredible things. And if you are younger in here, do not underestimate what God wants to do with you in the long term. And listen to the voices of the older generation. My last thing is to start these conversations because I hope these lead to differences, or not points, making a difference around your table. Because parents, this is a tough one. Let's continue those conversations and this tension. But I'll just tell you this, as you open those conversations, seek to understand, and then find the way to be understood. Seek to understand, then try to find a way to be understood. Seek to understand first. There is so much difference between us, but neither of these things is obsolete. Listen to me right now. My children, benefit from this relationship so much. Their grandparents, the people that are in their life. This is so valuable to me. This is an incredible relationship for them to meet. Let me tell you this as a youth pastor. I need these to speak. I need the wisdom of this to flow into the teenager's life. Parents in here know that sometimes they need to hear it 55 times from 12 people before they'll hear it. I hope I did a decent job of helping you start to realize that the differences don't cause a gap. I think they cause an opportunity for us to blend together as a group of people that have seen God do incredible things in the faithfulness that He has done, and to be a group of people that we can call the younger generation to do the same, regardless of the technological differences that we have been a part of. Would you pray with me? Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you so much for the work that you have done, all the things that you are doing. Lord, today is definitely a day that we recognize just all the incredible things that you are doing through moms, especially, but it's a day that we see the importance of the generations. We've all had a mom. We had someone that took the time to grow us inside of them and give birth. And Lord, it is an incredible gift to have life. And Lord, to know that you are at the core of that, and at the very beginning of all this, that you started that with the gift of life, and that you have seen each of us in the way we've grown. You've watched us mature and learn. Lord, as we strive to help each other grow and understand what full life is all about, or may the tensions between the generations, may the differences between the generations, the kids these days that drive us crazy, Lord, would you continue to guide our speech and our wisdom and our thoughts to make it something that you can do incredible works through each of us, utilizing our talents and abilities in time. In your name we pray. Amen. As we go into our time of response, I just encourage you to step into that tension a little bit and recognize the opportunities that you have, each younger and older generation, and ultimately give thanks to God for the time that we have had and the time that you have had, opportunities that you have had, and also turn your eyes to what He has given on the cross, eternity. That one day we will be together, all the generations, all the nations, every time, tribe, and tongue will celebrate together. One body, over millennia, together. We're going to have communion up in front and in the back. As we take this, I encourage you to do it in your own time. I'd love to pray with you if you need some encouragement on the conversations you need to have. I'd love to pray with you. We'll have an elder in the front and up here as well. Let's respond together. Continuing on in our worship this morning, and we're going to go into our time of offering. So as we do that, would you pray with me? Lord, we thank you for your blessings. Thank you for the gifts that have come from you. And we come to a place where we just remind ourselves that every good and perfect thing is from you. And so Lord, as we say thank you, we can, as you continue to teach us what it means to be generous in life, Lord, we give back to you what is already yours. So Lord, would you bless these gifts for your kingdom and for your glory. In your name we pray. Amen. As they come around with the offering plates this morning, I just have a couple announcements for you. First of all, I want to let you know, just kind of save the date. Coming up in June 7th,
we're having is our church picnic. So just put that on the calendar, get that in your heads. It's June 7th. It's going to be from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. We'll have more details to come. That'll be down at Spirit of 76 Park. We'll have the pool and hanging out. So it's going to be a good time. So just put that on your calendar, June 7th.
We have a ton of youth announcements, and so I'm basically just going to boil it down to say this. The camp dates for our elementary age students is in the bulletin, so if you have a kid K through 4th or 5th grade, go and check the bulletin that has the camp dates in it for Maranatha. For high school, we have a couple things happening this week. We are going to the Mark for our junior high and high school, and actually 4th and 5th. We are renting out the Mark this Wednesday night, so we'll be actually over there hanging out this Wednesday night. So if you show up here and you're like, where is everybody? It's because we're at the Mark. All right, so go to the Mark. We'll be putting it on Facebook and on our Twitter account, so you make sure you follow that if you maybe forget. And the second thing is next week is our graduation week, and that's where we're going to celebrate our high school graduates. Those that are moving on, we want to go ahead and celebrate those. So if you have a student that is that age, I want to just remind you that that is happening next week. We also have junior high and high school camp and a bunch of events that are starting up in the summer. I'll just tell you to go to our class booth. That's right outside the door. There's camp flyers there and information. I'll try to make my way there as quickly as I can to answer any of those if you have. Our meal for today, though, is... Oh, there's not one! You know why? It's Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Hey, thank you so much for coming today, guys. We are done. Have a good week.